Hello YouTube, this is Morgan Airspeed Prime here with my next Boruto manga chapter review. This one is going to be for Boruto 2 Blue Vortex chapter 3, which is called Uzuhiko. So, 3 chapters in, I would definitely say the first 2 chapters have been, good, but not blow away amazing. There's definitely been, the typical pacing problems. I don't think this chapter necessarily solves some of that, but because it has an interesting subject matter, that being basically the reveal of what seems to be Boruto's fancy, big new technique, and it's a really interesting concept for a technique, it means the chapter has actually delivered some pretty solid information. Now, visually, does it showcase what this technique is all that well? I think that's the challenge here in terms of it'll be interesting when the anime gets here to see how visually they show this, because I think I was very, very reliant on the text explanation for what exactly this technique is. And like I said, the concept is very cool for Rasengan Uzuhiko. And what the kind of implication of it is really fascinating. But I don't know if Ikamoto necessarily got that across all that well. There's some interesting enough taijutsu as Boruto and Code kind of maneuver themselves into a position where, of course, Boruto actually affects him and then hits him with the Rasengan Uzuhiko. But the actual effect of it and what it's meant to look like, kind of hard to exactly make out, and it's kind of quite grand in sort of scale and scope in terms of what it's going for. Otherwise, the remainder of the chapter, that was about 2/3 of the chapter, is just covering the Rasengan Uzuhiko. Now, thankfully, that technique, as Boruto said at the start of the fight, does seem to bring the fight with Code to an end. And they're implying that Code doesn't have long left to live now, basically, which is quite interesting. So that leaves the remaining 12-ish pages to kind of cover quick little bits of details on the whole tree thing from the last chapter, and then actually address, okay, what's going on with the Ten Tails? Now, we don't really do much with that. It's more of just the cliffhanger ending of Boruto now knows where the Ten Tails is, and because of this kind of Toad connection, it seems to imply some stuff about what's happened in the last couple of years, and that Boruto seems like he is now able to, I suppose, go to the Ten Tails if required. But the other thing is almost the how noticeably kind of ignored the Boruto Kawaki dynamic was, where they finally confront each other and in a way have a bit of a conversation, but Boruto is so focused on basically dealing with Code and more specifically dealing with the Ten Tails that the whole Kawaki thing, which has been the whole highlight of the last however long of the manga, that is definitely on the back burner a little bit here. So it seems like we're for sure dealing with whatever Boruto now knows about the Ten Tails. That is top priority before even Kawaki needs to be dealt with. So eager to see them properly reveal what exactly is going on there. But I suppose let's get into it here. So we open up, we have a cover page, which is Himawari. Pretty nice, kind of jumping up in the air. Can't wait to see more of Himawari as the manga goes on. Hopefully they don't forget about her in terms of using her in fights potentially going forward. She's at least acknowledged by Boruto in this chapter, so that's nice. But hopefully she gets the spotlight that she deserves. So then we go into the actual start of the chapter. Let's go through it kind of page by page. So yeah, we open up with Code trying to figure out as Boruto walks towards him. What's he doing here? Rasengan Uzuhiko, what's he doing here? Based on the kind of visuals they're trying to get across here, it seems to be the idea of it's effectively invisible, and all that Code can really see is a sense of the air is disturbed around Boruto. And so he's kind of oh, is he doing the special vanishing Rasengan? That only works as a surprise attack. There's no way he's so confident just about that. So Code decides he's going to attack himself. So he makes claw marks. He kind of comes out behind Boruto, goes in for the attack. Boruto immediately spins around and goes for the finishing blow, typically with the Rasengan, which is the, plant it right into their gut, basically. But Code catches his arm. Then the other hand comes in to the open side of Boruto. Boruto blocks that with the sword coming out. So a nice little kind of counter sequence here. And Code's just like, you can't even hit me with this thing, even though you're so confident about it. But Boruto just says, I told you killing you is easy. In fact, I'm already halfway there. And Code's like, wait, what? And then we see that what's happening is that Code is holding onto Boruto's hand, but the air kind of revolving around Boruto is now revolving around Code's arm and is kind of spiraling up his arm. Code's like, why is it coiling around my arm? Like, what on earth is going on here? And there's a real sense of like, he has no idea what exactly is happening just yet because it's only on his arm. Like, okay, I have spinning air around my arm. What exactly does this mean? But Boruto just gives him the warning of like, this is your last warning. Take me to where Ten Tails is. If you refuse, you can die here. So Code jumps in. Boruto doesn't seem to even move that much. Code just, it looks like he misses effectively. And so they really get across this idea of, Boruto, as far as, based on the description from later on, it seems like the idea is that this is the effect of Uzuhiko actually beginning to impact Code. Boruto, in this case, I don't think has moved quite yet. It's a kind of a tricky one because it'll take a few pages for us to get to the point where we really see Code like properly affected in the way he says it is. So I think at this point the idea is meant to be that like this is Boruto using the kind of energy that actually powers this technique to kind of effortlessly dodge Code just before the kind of debuff effect of this technique begins to take effect on Code. I think that's what's going on here. Because Code says, what's going on? His movements are way beyond simple dodging. Nor is it genjutsu or doppelgangers. This is what? As he kind of looks up and Boruto is like right there. And this is where he actually delivers the typical Rasengan right into the gut. And says the name of the attack, Rasengan Uzuhiko. And what they do here, and they get across the impact of this, I think, pretty well. You see the kind of spiraling wind come up in a way from the ground, up his legs, up his body, kind of, Boruto's whole body is kind of spiraling, out, down his arm, and then he basically transfers this onto Code. He sends him flying, but there's no damage. So typically Rasengan will like basically leave a hole, like almost like an energy kind of burn on someone. Like it does damage. But here, Code is intact, but he's just been blown away. So there's this sense of like, that was really cool, but did you actually do anything to him? And Code just seems to be blown away, stand back up, and then we cut to Ada and Demon, who are effectively like watching what's happening from a distance. So Ada, I guess, is relaying a lot of this to Demon, and he can just sense some of the energy stuff going on. And Ada's like, what a basic jutsu. How is this different from a regular Rasengan? And Demon is the one who actually says, so Boruto's the one making the ground tremble. And Ada is like, wait, what? And Demon says, or rather, it's the entire Earth. This attack makes use of planetary spin. And you're like, whoa, what? And Ada's like, what do you mean, planetary spin? Demon's just like, nifty. And we cut back and we get the idea of, like Boruto says, I'm surprised. I didn't expect you to still be standing. And then we cut to basically from Code's perspective. He's looking at Boruto, but all he can see is this kind of like almost he's in a tornado, and Boruto's like spinning. So it's like his entire like equilibrium, the way he kind of senses the world is completely, everything is spinning. That's what's happening here. Code's like, why all this spinning? And because it's so bad, he like falls over. He can't keep his balance. And he's like, what did you do to me? Boruto then actually explains this properly. So he says, enjoy. Think of it as a biting counterattack from this planet that you are trying to destroy. From this planet. A Rasengan that incorporates a planet's chakra, its rotation. That's what Uzuhiko is. The power that is rushing through your body right now will never dissipate. Just like how a planet will never stop spinning. And goes like rotation, and again we cut to his perspective and he just sees Boruto spinning. Like he views Boruto in that instant as being upside down. And Boruto says, the damage will continue semi-permanently. Semi because your life will run out before the planet stops spinning. And Code just falls to the ground again. And he gets up close to him, Boruto, at this point, and says, there is an option of me rescinding Uzuhiko, like stopping it. Would you rather quietly await death or give me 10 tails and live? I think it's a choice even a fool can make. And Code is just there like, I can't stop this. Like, he is basically helpless in this situation. It does seem like it's over for him as Kawaki arrives on the scene. Boruto dodges, of course. They have their big kind of moment here. He does get to see Himawari at the bottom of the page here. She says Boruto, and he in his head is like, oh, Hima, that's what you look like now, kind of type thing. Kawaki takes a look at like a basically defeated Code on the ground and is like, whoa, what did he do? But everyone else there, like Shikadai is there. He's like, why are you here, Boruto? And what were you discussing with Code? And he's just like, I'm trying to make a deal. Would you mind not interfering? Code tries to get away using claw marks. Kawaki shrinks them to get rid of them. And he reports back to Shikamaru just to say that, I don't know what happened, but Code's drained. I also dealt with his last claw mark. I can probably kill him right now. Shikamaru basically says, yes, do that. Boruto says, you should move away, don't provoke him. But Kawaki's just like, who are you to order me around? If you showed yourself, you must be prepared to die. At this point, out of the claw mark on Code's face, one of the claw grimes pops out. Kawaki immediately kills it, but the claw grimes have claw marks on them. So right as kind of Kawaki stabs this, Code dives into its claw mark to escape. So this is how he actually makes his proper escape here. They're just like, get rid of all the claw grimes. That's all we can really do right now. And he just tells everyone, everyone go on ahead. We do see Himawari say big bro. Obviously, as far as we're referring to Kawaki, but him saying, I've got business with this one. And it seems like we're actually finally going to get a conversation between Boruto and Kawaki after a couple of years. Then we cut over to Sarada, and obviously the guy who, was turned into a tree by one of the claw grimes. Sarada is basically like, the Ten Tails is a creature that becomes a divine tree when it devours an Otsutsuki. Maybe devouring beings is instinctual to them. So the idea is that, is this a defective divine tree because it devoured the wrong thing? But she notes that he's not dead. He's still alive in the tree, so we can potentially get him out here. This is not a thing where they're just turned into a tree and killed immediately. He's still alive. So then we cut back to Kawaki and Boruto. It's been 3 years. What's up with your outfit? Are you an Uchiha adoptee now? And again, it's just some smack talk here. Your smack talk sure hasn't changed, but I'm glad to see Himawari looking well. Kawaki approaches Boruto, saying, why are you here? If you've come to die at home, I'll help you. Boruto does say dying in Konoha doesn't sound bad, but not today. But out of this, Kawaki, you're in my way. And of course, Kawaki says, you're the only one in anyone's way, Boruto, don't you think? And then we get a new kind of character introduced here. So Boruto is revealed to have a small toad in his collar, basically, behind his neck, whispering in his ear. Infiltration accomplished, Boruto. Codes returned to base. Any sign of Ten Tails? Hold on, not yet. And we cut to Code in the dimension where he's holding the Ten Tails. He's struggling to walk forward. We see that Bug is in one of these trees from a clog rhyme. He walks forward to where the Ten Tails actually is. He's really struggling. It's revealed that there is also a toad basically on kind of Code's back. So this is how the kind of relay is going of this information. And yeah, we get to see the kind of Ten Tails covered in claw marks, and then of course pierced with some of those kind of chakra rods. And we get the confirmation Ten Tails is here. Good. And the final panel is interesting because it's Boruto with his kind of fingers up, and there's a sound effect right at the end of the chapter. It's like FSH, like fsh. And they don't show you the side of his face where his Jogan eye would be. So are they teasing the Jogan as some sort of a like way where he can like get in? Is he activating karma in this moment, and that's kind of what they're hiding? It's a little bit unclear, but he's activating something, I guess, because he's clearly not interested in dealing with Kawaki right now. It's all about the Ten Tails and whatever Code is doing to it, creating a bit of an issue. I'm guessing what they're going for here is probably the idea of, by sort of empowering the Ten Tails with like an extra ability, you've turned it from being a thing that can be sort of controlled for its power to kind of something that might be able to act on its own to gain its own power. But still a little bit unclear, because obviously Boruto, the whole last chapter, was talking about how dangerous what Code has done is, and that this will kind of bring ruin to everything what Code has done in kind of creating an army and kind of giving them extra powers. So what's happened here? Because there's a couple of implications here. One, the idea that Boruto has toads is that either he has become a toad sage somehow by going to Mount Miyaboku or something like that, or, as a lot of people are suspecting, somewhere along the way he has met up with Kashin Koji, and these are Koji's toads, because I think we've seen this kind of sort of relaying visuals to each other stuff before. Because again, we don't know, that they're teasing a lot of stuff from the past that's kind of gone on here. Where did Boruto learn this crazy technique? Where's Sasuke? Where's Kashin Koji in all of this? What happened in the past when there was this previous incident with Code? We still want to know all of that stuff before we kind of get too far away from it. But interesting stuff. I think the setup feels pretty solid for what's happening next, because they're saying that like Code is about to die. He doesn't. The only way that this could be stopped, Rasengan Uzuhiko slowly killing him, is if Boruto chooses to stop the technique. So what's going to happen here? Because this is full power Code, basically. They are continuously portraying him as not being an impressive villain. As powerful as he theoretically is, he is constantly being smacked down by characters. The fact that he's defeated in one attack from Boruto, you're kind of just waiting for, like, is there going to be some twist, or is this what Code is as a character up to now? He's basically just meant to be this nuisance who has caused something to happen that Boruto needs to kind of stop. But he was never as big of a threat as was maybe made out to be. He's just powerful enough to be frustrating. But it seems like Boruto, in training for just a couple of years, has utterly surpassed him. And I think the implication is that Kawaki can also just defeat Code if he needs to. Plus, Demon can defeat him. All of these things are just make like what's happening right now just feel a little bit like, what are we doing here? Is Code just done for? Because I do right now just kind of view him as a little bit of a kind of loose end that does just need to be tied up. That once we deal with Code, we can focus our attention on this Ten Tails thing, and then switch over to Kawaki, the plot that basically we're all waiting to get into here, with just how do we resolve what's happening with the omnipotence ability and stuff like that. That's what where my kind of focus is overall. But yeah, I would say, you know, interesting enough chapter. I always find it just a little bit kind of tricky with the chapters where it is just a thing where you take, you know, 2/3 of the chapter, in this case nearly 3/4 of the chapter, to just explain one ability. And it's like, did we need to spend that much time on it? That could have been probably done in less pages and we could have accomplished more. That's in general something I have with the Boruto manga kind of across the board. Nearly every chapter I feel of this manga is in that position where you, I think, could have presented more information than you actually did. And panel, like, it seems like Ikemoto requires a lot of panels to get stuff across. That's the big thing here. But still, this is not the most egregious example of that. I think the fight that we actually got here was impressive in terms of what it was actually showing. Notable new technique. I think actually decently choreographed. It's just, even coming out of the explanation, you're kind of like, okay, so is it all kind of entirely invisible, that like, apart from little bits of like rotating wind almost, you don't get any sense of what's happening here? Because that's why they brought up the invisible Rasengan at the start. You know, still interesting stuff. So in the comments, I suppose, bringing the review to an end, in the comments, let me know what your thoughts are. What were your thoughts on Rasengan Uzuhiko? The fact that they kind of just brushed past, in a way, almost a Kawaki Boruto kind of interaction to focus on this Ten Tails stuff. Where are they going with that? And then, as I've been asking for, I suppose, quite a while, what's the deal with Code? Is Code just going to die, or is there something more to him? Is he going to surprise us in some way and actually accomplish something? Or is the kind of threat of this character just that he has put things into motion, but it's not really him that's the danger? It's just he was stupid enough to do this thing, almost enhance the Ten Tails, and that's the actual threat. But yeah, let me know in the comments what your thoughts were on the chapter. Again, I didn't do a speculation ahead of this chapter because I didn't feel like there was a lot of information in the last one. There's probably a bit more to talk about, I think, with reflection on this chapter, so I probably will do a speculation going into chapter 4. So look out for that, probably closer to the time of chapter 4 actually coming out. But otherwise, let me know what your thoughts on this chapter are in the comments below. That's been the video. Thanks for watching, and bye.